Welcome to the Four Borders podcast.
Dave, how you doing there?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good. It still looks like you live in a prison, or you're recording from.
Yeah, but they let me put a poster up.
That's cool. Good for them. That's really nice. Hey, Dave, welcome to the Four Birdies podcast and everybody else out there. This is a place where you're going to find us talking about golf, disc golf, fantasy, football. Really anything that a person might want to do on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Dave, how you been there, man?
Pretty good. Just kind of watching the game a little bit and realizing that I'm going to lose to Jeremiah, even though he didn't set a full lineup. So that's pretty. It's a big blow here, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to make the playoffs. I'm not going to let it get me down too much.
Yeah, that's got to be a gut wrenching. Somebody who's not even trying to win. Somebody who would it seem might actively be trying to lose.
I don't know what benefit that would be for him. I just think he's not a very observant fantasy football manager. And between me and you, he might not be in the league next year.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make the cut. So, Jeremiah, if you hear that, you are officially on notice, my friend.
You're on thin ice, my friend.
And on notice, because you're not going to be in the league next year. So just, you've been warned. Das ist passiert. But he's also learning Japanese. I think that's where a lot of his attention has been going. Good for him. I feel like he's actually making himself smarter. Me, on the other hand, I'm just pumping my ego because, Dave, as you and I both know, I am currently sitting in first place. I believe I'm going to be the only one with 9 wins to finish out the season. Now, if you asked me at the beginning of the year if I thought this was possible, I would have said possible, but not plausible. But here I am, Dave, sitting on top, and boy, does it feel pretty good.
Good for you. Hopefully you're still in first place after you get back from Bragg camp.
Exactly. Let's hope first place carries on to the first playoff game, to the second playoff game, to the third playoff game. So I'm going to say my prayers. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to brag. I do, I want to make people aware. They're probably already aware. It's a fine line to walk, I guess.
But enough about you. Let's talk about fantasy football here.
Okay. So, Dave, what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about some injuries. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, some major injuries that are going to change the landscape of fantasy football for a lot of managers right now. And the first one is rookie phenom wide receiver for the Houston Texans, Tank Dell, gets injured blocking on a run play at the goal line, which the guy weighs 165 pounds, and you got him blocking on a goal line running play, and he got rolled up on, broke his leg. I feel pretty sick about it, to be honest. I've got him in a couple of different leagues, and it's going to be hard to recover from that because he has been producing like crazy the last month or so. And so I'm not sure why the Texans would put him in a position where the smallest guy in the field is going to be blocking at the goal line. I just don't get it, Alex. Why would they do that?
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of logic behind it. It also seems like it's quite ironic. His name is Tank, but he's not built like a tank. So why is his name Tank? I'm not really sure, Dave. He went out and he made that block, and it looks like he got rolled over and crunched on. And there are a lot of big boys in that pile, and you definitely don't want to put one of your prized receivers out there to make a block like that. Put a tight end out there. Put 2 tight ends out there. Don't put your little Tank Dell out there. So I hear what you're saying, Dave. Very frustrating indeed. You had a nice little steal on your hands from playing him, drafting him all those teams now, didn't you?
It was great while I had him. And he's out for the season. Hopefully he recovers well and can pick up where he left off next year.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, who you got? Who you got there at number 3?
So another big one is New England Patriots star running back Ramondre Stevenson has an ankle injury. It looks like that he was a victim of the infamous hip drop tackle.
Are you serious? They got him as well?
Another one of those. Yeah. So it's hard to say how many weeks he's going to miss right now. But I also had him in a league, and I'm going to have to just figure out a way to get by without him.
I'm sorry to hear that, Dave. It's like, you almost take it personally, right? It's kind of that feel to it, doesn't it?
It's a little demoralizing, yeah, to be like hanging by a thread in a league and you lose one of your best players. It's tough, but that's fantasy football, though. It happens every year. You just, here's the tip for your mom. That's why you have to have depth. I talked about this in like week 2 or 3. Sometimes you're tempted to trade away players that are on your bench because you're like, oh, I'm going to package these bench players for another player that I could start. Maybe it doesn't always work out that way. having a bench depth is not a bad thing. And in times like this where there's lots of buys and there's lots of injuries, having a well-stocked bench can get you through those tough times.
So is that officially a tip for any moms out there?
I would say that in general, depth is good to have, and usually deeper the better.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Sorry.
Hey, that's how it goes, Dave. You need some depth out there. I totally get it. Well, it's a bummer that he went down. And who you got else? You got anybody else on the injury report?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's going to be out for a little while, which arguably probably not a bad thing whatsoever. And then
Or
TJ Watt's hurt. Derek Carr's hurt. A lot of guys that you don't really necessarily depend on much.
well, that's like a bummer, man.
Yeah, Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett just had ankle surgery, apparently a tightrope surgery on a high ankle sprain. So he might come back later this year, but that's a big development. So Steelers are going to be without his services for at least a handful of games.
Tongue in cheek, right? Services, right? Because he's not that good, right? Isn't that the one? Well,
Yeah,
are you
that,
really that bummed if he's out, right? Are you kind of at this point you get Trubisky, isn't that wait, what the hell's going on? That's your backup quarterback? That is god awful. So you got Kenny Pickett and then TJ Watt. He's also injured, you said?
TJ Watt with a right ankle injury. I don't know the extent to it. Apparently, you can go to the internet.com and look for these types of things, and they don't have a whole lot of information out yet. I don't think teams are releasing the full extent of some of these injuries. So, if he's going to miss time, that's going to be a huge blow to the Steelers defense.
Yeah, and it's Monday, December 4th, about 10:06 Eastern Standard Time. Just in case anybody's wondering, it's day after the game, so they're not going to be releasing all of that. They might not even have to. When do they have to release the injury report?
I don't think teams are required to report an injury on a player in a game that had already happened. They are required to report injuries that will affect an upcoming game.
Mhm.
So they might not have to report for another several days the extent of a lingering injury. We might not know for sure what TJ Watt's ankle injury is at, what exactly it was. If he's going to be cleared for this next game, it's going to be a moot point.
Hey, Dave, can we talk about a pretty gruesome injury that I think a lot of us saw yesterday as well? It actually didn't happen to a player or even a coach. It happened to one of the chain gang guys who was moving the chains and the first down markers. It was at the Lions Saints game. And I think it was Kamara ran out of bounds and he, couldn't stop and he rolled up into this guy and the guy fell to the ground and they cut to Kamara getting up, and then it showed the guy laying there on the ground, and his leg was like bent like this. His one leg's like this. His one leg's like this, and the other leg is like bent inward. It's like an inward bend to it. And right when I saw, I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's freaking leg is gonna have to be amputated." Oh, I mean, I don't wish that upon him, but it looked really, really bad. Did you see that?
I saw that. That was a pretty sickening injury, and I think Kamara was a little bit in shock at like what had happened.
Mhm.
That guy was like screaming in pain. I think the camera crew did a pretty good job not focusing on it too much. They cut away from it. That's a huge injury for somebody that age to recover from. So hopefully he's able to get all the care that he needs in the rehab, and hopefully he can bounce back all right. But that's a scary injury.
That is, you're right. Kamara, he looked back and I think he was thinking to himself, should I help this guy? But then at the same time, he was probably unhelpable at that point. He needed like serious medical attention. And then Kamara's got to get back in there for the play. And then there's
Yeah.
the announcers. Daryl Johnson was one of them, and they're talking to each other, and they don't even acknowledge the guy's leg at first, and then they keep talking some more, and then finally, after like a minute, there's a delay, and they're taking care of this guy. Not because they should pause the game because somebody gets seriously injured on the sideline, but because he was too close to the proximity of the sideline, could have harmed the players had they run into him again and presumably like dislocated his brain or his head. I don't know, God forbid. But there's like a 3-minute delay altogether, or 4 minutes, and they get him off the field, but they don't even acknowledge him. And then finally they do. And I just thought to myself, like, hey guys, show a little respect. Like, just say, hey, you might have seen this guy on the ground. Let's say some prayers for him. Let's hope he's doing better and he heals quickly. as opposed to just kind of glossing over. I don't like that, but it's who I am. So
People were giving Kamara a hard time for not showing more like concern, but like, what's he supposed to do? Like, yeah, I mean, it sucks that that happened. He's not going to go render aid immediately. He's not a medical professional. He's not a trainer. I'm pretty sure he feels bad about it. People will nitpick anything though, if you think about it.
well, I think it looked so bad when Kamara looked at it. It looked so bad that he was probably even a little shocked himself. And he was probably like, good God, like I don't know how to help right here. I think had he walked over and he would have just like, said something like, I'm sorry and I'll cover all of your medical expenses, then he's gonna have to cover them. It's gonna be a big enough thing where this guy because I saw it and it was one of those things where I thought, oh, should I record it with my phone and just I can scroll through my photo reel and remember that time, but I didn't need to because everybody has it on Reddit, they have it on CNN, they have it on Reuters, everywhere. I don't know about Reuters, but a lot of places. Poor freaking guy. Dave, do you have any more injuries you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do. And the next injury I want to talk about, Green Bay Packers wide receiver Christian Watson pulled up with a hamstring injury, made a reception, was trying to get down to the ground, and you could just tell right away he grabbed his leg, and you just knew, oh, this is hamstring, an injury that he's battled in the past. I don't know if he's going to miss any time or not, but he immediately left the game. So not a good sign. Like I said before on this podcast, hamstring injuries are the worst, and they're really hard to recover from. They're one of those lingering injuries that you could re-aggravate at any given time. And what that does to the psyche of a player is mentally, it makes them question like what kind of cuts they can make, and they start to favor the other leg, or they just don't make the same moves they would otherwise make because they just don't have confidence, and they can end up re-injuring that same hamstring or actually injuring another body part just because of the overcompensation. So Christian Watson has had an up and down year. He's been coming on strong as of late, but now he's probably going to miss a couple games. So luckily the Packers have a lot of options at wide receiver for Jordan Love. If it's not Reed getting the ball, it's Dobbs, Wicks. Wicks is also getting some looks now. So I feel like they're going to be okay without him. But if you're a Christian Watson owner, it's going to be kind of a bummer here. You're going to be hitting the playoffs soon. You're probably not going to have him for the playoff run.
Yeah, I will say that Watson was playing really, really well in the past couple games, and he's a reliable player and probably their best receiver. So the fact that he did get injured, I think it's really going to tank the Packers' entire season, and they probably won't win any more games, from here on out or for the next couple of seasons. That's my best guess. If I had to read the situation the best, I think they'll probably go 0 for 78, 79 in the next couple of seasons. Dave, did you see Frank Ragnow for the Lions? He got his knee rolled up on. He was the Pro Bowl center for the Lions.
Yeah.
One of the anchors of that O line, and he got his knee rolled up on, and he's going to be out for a game or two at least. I'm guessing.
I did see that on the report. I figured I'd leave that up to you as the resident Lions expert, Alex.
Yeah, so that was unfortunate. And then another one of the players on my fantasy team, Jalen Hurts, he went out of the game yesterday against the Packers. And I wondered, is he coming back? And I wasn't really sure why he was going out. It turned out he went back there for concussion protocol. He came back and was able to finish out the game. And apparently he didn't have a concussion. So that was great news. But I was panicking for a few moments or about 10 minutes where I looked at the other quarterback on my team, and that was Dobbs, the Pastronaut. And I was freaking out to myself because I just gotten rid of Kyler Murray. And I thought if Hurts is out right now, if he's got a concussion, he's going to be out for the next game probably. And then he'll come back. I was pretty nervous for a hot minute. And then I saw him come back. I was like, that's why I drafted him. Let's go.
Let's go. I've been hearing rumors more and more that Commissioner Roger Goodell is going to try to ban the tush push. So I feel like if he does that, you got to knock Hurts down a little bit on the draft boards.
Sure. But I mean, he took him to a Super Bowl. Granted, he did that. He took him to the Super Bowl by using the tush push at times. But still, I wouldn't, whatever. You can just try to, diminish players in ways, and he's still an MVP type player, and it is what it is.
Do you think after the Eagles got stomped by the 49ers, he's still in the MVP discussion?
That's a good question. I think he's still in the discussion. Depends how the year finishes out. If you have one mediocre game, he even goes out during the game and he didn't play that poorly overall anyway, then I think it's kind of bogus. But he's not he's in the MVP discussion. Now is he the leader at this point? Then no, that's not happening.
Yeah, here Brock Purdy is gaining traction as MVP candidate. So we'll see
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happens there.
Dave, well, we should probably wrap this baby up. You got any more injuries that you want to talk about before we cut this?
Minka Fitzpatrick hurt his hand. That sucks. I think I strained my bicep muscle chopping
Dang.
firewood. So hopefully I don't miss too much time.
Sorry to hear that, buddy. Well, you know what they say, just sit out for a couple weeks and just don't do anything and go to rehab about 8 to 12 hours a day and eat as healthily as you can and just keep your mind right. You'll be good, Dave. I'm sure family will take care of itself. Put it on autopilot and you focus on you. You got to get right.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate the words of encouragement.
That's right. I love you, buddy. Okay, well, if you haven't already, then please like and subscribe to the Four
No,
Birdies.
no, don't do it.
Yeah, you
Don't-
got to. Yeah.
Don't like it. No thumbs up. Don't subscribe and don't share.
Well, okay, Dave's got his theory. I've got my theory. I guess we'll see who wins. Thanks for tuning in. Ciao. Four Birdies.